starting with the water cycle, so I'm going to title it Water Cycle. Water Cycle. I'm going to caution you right now. I have horrible handwriting, so it's super duper duper important for you to actually listen to what I say. Because if you're just hoping that you're going to be able to write it down and ignore me, good luck with that. So really important that you're paying attention. All right, so I'm going to draw the sun. Yes, I gave the sun a smiley face. And I'm going to start here. Okay, so I'm going to draw some water. Okay, so the sun heats up the water. And so that liquid water becomes water vapor. And so what do we call that? It's called evaporation. So that's called evaporation. Okay, so liquid water vaporizes to water vapor. Make sure I can fit all that. Okay. So evaporation right there. Now, just like all liquids, as they heat up, water vapor is going to rise higher and higher and higher into the atmosphere. And when it does so it rises higher and higher and higher. When it does so, it's going to eventually cool down. And when it cools down, we get what we call clouds. Okay? And so that is condensation. Condensation. So that's the opposite of evaporation. Okay, that's when we go from water vapor to liquid water. So that's condensation. Now, if there's enough of that liquid water, it gets pretty heavy and starts to fall. And when it falls, what do we call that? Very good. What's the big word? Precipitation. Okay, so those are my little raindrops. They're not great, but whatever. All right, so precipitation. Okay, so that's going to be anything like rain, sleet, snow, or even fog. Fog is also considered precipitation. Not really, because it's too close to the ground for it to be condensation. All right, now I'm going to, so here's my little embankment right here, and so here's my land. Okay, so I'm going to draw a little tree here. So there's my little tree. So water is going to rain down on that little tree, be absorbed by the roots, and then it's going to travel up, and we talked about water traveling up and out of leaves. When water comes out of leaves, and so underneath the leaf, it's really kind of cool. Underneath the leaf, there are these little holes, little pores. They're called stomata, and the water actually escapes out of those little pores. And so if you put a plant in a plastic bag, which seems kind of cruel, but if you put a plant in a plastic bag, eventually you'll see little droplets of water on the plastic bag, because plants actually do emit water vapor. And so that has a name, and that's called transpiration. Transpiration is water loss from leaves. Okay, that being said, if we talk about like the rainforest, the tropical rainforest, there's a lot of transpiration going on there. Why? Yeah, a lot of leaves and big leaves too, right? So a lot of leaves, lots of transpiration. And so if we cut down those trees, well, here's what happens. So all of that water comes out, creates little clouds in the sky, and then those clouds rain back down, that precipitation comes back down, and then it goes back up, and it's like one big cycle with the trees in the rainforest. And so when we cut the trees down, then the water rains down, but it has nowhere to go. Like it has no trees to absorb it, and so then it just flows violently. What is a violent flow of water called? A flood. So just kind of a little side note, you could use that on your project if you wanted to. Cutting down trees in the rainforest causes flooding. All right, so another part of the water cycle is percolation, which is exactly what it sounds like. Water is going to get absorbed into the soil. Okay, it becomes groundwater. It fills up or recharges aquifers. It's wonderful. We like that. Okay, so percolation. Or here's another option, especially if the land is eroded, or especially if there's no trees. It gets really bad. So another option for water is runoff. Now, a certain amount of runoff is important. We need it to go back into our lakes and rivers and so on and so forth. But when we cut down trees and we erode the soil, then runoff becomes even worse. And that becomes a problem. All right. And that is the water cycle. It's everything you need to know about the water cycle. All right, so next one is, guess what? The carbon cycle. All right, let's title that nice and big, the carbon cycle. All right, so this is where all my drawing abilities kind of rear their ugly heads because they're not very good. All right, so first things first, I'm going to draw some land. So here's my land. All right, cool. All right, here's my tree. Draw a tree here. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about CO2. So I get CO2 or carbon dioxide. We know that. And we're going to do kind of a throwback to first semester. So carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay. Plants and trees are going to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. What process is used for the removal of CO2 by plant? Photosynthesis, perfectly. So photosynthesis, okay, removing CO2. Not just plants, but also algae, right? Remember I told you that half of the photosynthesis that occurs on this planet comes from algae in the ocean. So bear in mind, that's also a process. Don't forget that. Don't forget our friends the algae. They're very important. Now, here is another flip side to this. Plants also emit a little of CO2, okay, through a process. That process is respiration. Okay, so all organisms respire, even the ones that photosynthesize. Okay, so now here's the thing. Plants are going to absorb more CO2 than they emit. So there's a net amount of CO2 that's absorbed, okay? And that's a good thing. All right. Now I'm going to draw a person. And yeah, it's going to be sad. But here's my person. I'm sure that your person looks a whole lot better than my. I'm going to put feet on my person. So there's my person's feet. All right. And he is happy. Great. Now, my person is breathing. And because he's breathing, he is emitting what? CO2. My person is an animal. Yes, human beings are animals. I know. We don't like to believe that. We like to believe that we're better, but technically we are animals. So respiration by consumers. All consumers are going to respire. Or AKA animals, right? Animals or fungi or anything like that. And that's going to put more CO2 into the atmosphere. Okay? Cool. Now, here's another one. So I'm going to draw something that's dead. Alright, so it's not a very good dead. That's a bone. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then here are as well as some poop. Here's my poop emoji. It's not a very good poop emoji, but whatever. And so, decaying materials and manure. So all the decomposers that work on decaying, so I'm going to put manure, right? And this is decaying matter, right? So who is breaking this down? Decomposers. Decomposers also respire. Okay? So respiration, sorry, that's supposed to be an S. Respiration by decomposers. Okay, so that is another way that CO2 goes into the atmosphere. Alright, now, last one. Going over to the right side. I'm going to draw a factory. It's not going to be a very nice factory, but it's going to be a factory. Not just factories, but also, before you leave, write this down. Don't pack up yet. Also, cars, okay, are going to emit CO2 through the process of combustion. Combustion. And that is the burning of fossil fuels. Do not leave without writing this down. You'll be okay. No one's going to shoot you for being, getting into class right before the bell. You'll be fine. We will do the nitrogen cycle next time. Oh, good. That's kind of cool.